Hello, welcome to Singing Bowl Yoga. I'm Ruth Ann, and I want to work a little bit more on one of my favorite poses, bridge pose. So bridge pose is a lovely pose to help rejuvenate the body, bring the body back into a balanced state. There's other lovely benefits to back bending, energizing the spine. When we bring our hips higher than our heads and our hearts higher than our heads, it can help create a calming effect for the body. So there's a lot of reasons why bridge pose is one of my favorite poses. If you want more information about it, I'm going to also post a blog, so check out my blog on Setu Bandha Sarvangasana, which is bridge pose. But what we're going to do is just start on our backs and do kind of a little warm-up for getting ourselves into this kind of intermediate but gentle back bend. All right, so join me on my back here. Go ahead and lay down onto your back and then bend your knees. Feet on the floor, about hip distance apart. You can always walk your feet in a little closer to your hips. And we're just going to start in this bent knee resting pose with the hips lined up, with the knees lined up with the hip points and the feet about hip distance apart, arms just resting alongside the body. Feel your shoulder blades snuggling down into the floor. Not pinching together, not squeezing together, but snuggling down towards the hips so you feel anchored. Close your eyes and just notice how your body feels, how you're feeling today, how your breath feels. Bridge pose can help us to navigate change. Change is the only constant after all. So maybe noticing any emotions or thoughts around change that might be occurring in your life right now or in the world around us. And just allowing for those feelings, those thoughts. Noticing any changes that are occurring in your body as you continue to rest here for another few breaths. Maybe the breath starts to grow a little quieter, longer, smoother. And then if you would like to set an intention for your yoga practice today, just bring your hands together over your chest, pressing palms and fingers and thumbs together. And maybe you'd like to take the balance that you find here on your yoga mat back into the rest of your day. And maybe there's another reason why you stepped on your mat, maybe another quality that you would like to see throughout the rest of your day. And when you're ready, release your arms down alongside the body again. Blink your eyes a few times just to adjust to the light in the room, and if you want to check out the screen again, feel free to do that. And then what we're going to do is just pick the feet up off the floor, bringing the knees over the hips. And as you do that, you're going to start to feel some of those back muscles engage. So go ahead and lengthen your tailbone towards the end of your mat so you feel the back pressing down into the floor. But as you do that, try to keep your knees over your hips. So you can even take your hands and kind of make stop signs with them. And then on your next inhale, bring your arms up and overhead and extend your legs, pressing your heels up towards the ceiling. Now as you exhale, bring your arms back down alongside the body, or if you have a tendency again to let the knees collapse in towards the belly, you can bring your hands to your knees. So what we're doing is using our inhale to extend the legs. You might even feel the back gently arch away from the floor, but as you exhale, lengthen your tailbone, press the back down, bring your knees, or keep your knees even with your hips and bring your heels even with your knees. Inhale, extend the legs, lift the arms. Exhale, lengthen your tailbone, press your back down, bend your knees. So inhale, extend the arms, extend the legs. Exhale, bend. Let's do 2 more. Lifting the legs and the arms. Exhaling, arms down, heels down. 1 more. Good. Now as you inhale, go ahead and put your feet on the floor. Extend your legs and extend your arms back up overhead. Take a nice full body stretch. Feeling those hip flexors extend. Good. Now as you exhale, bring just your right knee in towards your chest. We're going to take the right knee off to the right and work our way into a half happy baby. So one option would be to just take that right arm behind the right leg, bring the right knee out to the right, keeping the left leg extended. The other option would be to bring the right arm inside the right leg and reach up for the outer edge of that right foot. So as we extend out through that left leg and find this half happy baby pose, we're stretching a lot of hip structure, a little bit into the groins. And the thighs stretch. This is all preparatory for our bridge pose. We'll take another couple of breaths here. Try to keep those shoulder blades moving down on the back towards the hips. Staying nice and anchored here. I always want to keep this right foot flexed when we're doing things with the knee deeply bent like this. And then we'll slowly release. Let's go back into that full body stretch, stretching out the right leg, stretching the arms back up overhead. And then we'll exhale to bring the left knee in towards the chest. Either taking taking the left arm behind the left leg, or bringing the left arm inside the left leg and working our way into our half happy baby pose. Extending out through that right leg, bringing that left heel right over that left knee if possible. So even if you're doing it with the arm behind the leg, we can work our way into our half happy baby. Ardha Ananda Balasana. Half of blissful child, right? Taking some nice deep breaths and just relaxing into the stretches, softening where we need to soften. This is going to be key to later. Being in our bridge. Good. And then when you're ready, use your inhale to stretch that left leg out, bring the arms back up overhead. And now as you exhale, bring both knees in towards your chest, and we'll just pause in a double knee hug. If you want to circle the legs around a few times and then just enjoy a little massage with the back against the floor. Feels pretty yummy. If you're circling your knees, go the other way. And then go ahead and just roll to one side or the other. Let's use our arm strength to work our way up. We're going to come into a tabletop position. So go ahead and just take your time as you work your way into your tabletop, bringing your knees about to the center of the mat. Bring your hands up towards the front edge of the mat. Position the knees underneath your hips and your wrist creases right underneath your shoulders. All right. Now I want you to just focus on that tailbone again. And just creating a nice flat back by lengthening the tailbone away from the crown of the head, just keeping your gaze soft down at the floor. And now slowly start to tuck your tail down towards the knees. Feel the navel kick in again. And then we'll inhale and just relax the tail. Sort of a modified version of cat and cow. And we're mostly just working the tailbone down towards the heels on the exhale and lifting the tail on the inhale. Tuck on the exhale, lift on the inhale. Just keeping your gaze soft between your hands. There's no need to do a lot of rounding in the upper back right now. We're focusing on this tailbone tucking on the exhale, relaxing on the inhale. Let's do 2 more. And then one more. And then inhaling our way back to a neutral spine. Let's just exhale into a child's pose for a few breaths. Letting the hips come back towards the heels. We'll keep the arms stretched out. Maybe the forehead comes to the mat or the head just hangs between the arms. Reacquaint yourself with your breath, just keeping the breath slow and smooth, but full and expansive. Even if the belly and the chest are smushed against the thighs, feel as though you can breathe into the back of the body. Maybe breathe into the area around the tailbone, or breathe into the side body. And now use your inhale to make your way up to tabletop. From here, we're going to lift the feet off the floor, curl the toes under, and then lift the knees, working our way into our first downward facing dog together. Spread your fingers, rooting down through the fingertips and the knuckles of the hands. Take some time to stretch out your legs by alternating a bend in the knees. Now, instead of trying to just press your heels to the mat, try to pull the heels back away from the toes. Keeping the toes and the ball mounds of the toes planted. Pull the heels back. Feel that stretch in the legs. Now, eventually, pull both heels back, extend your legs to the best of your ability, lift your hips as high as you can, and now gently tuck your tailbone so you feel the abdominal muscles kick in. You feel your back stretch. Now notice where your shoulder blades are. If they're starting to slide up towards your ears, slide your shoulder blades up the back towards the hips so the neck gets a little longer here. Good, now take your gaze towards your hands and step up towards the front of your mat. Place your feet so they're about hip distance apart. Soften the bend in your knees and fold in half. So we want to hinge from the hips, taking the stretch out of the hips a little bit, bringing it into the back body as we lengthen the back of the body. Just enjoying being upside down for a few breaths. It might even feel good to shake the head, yes, or shake the head, no. And then bring your head back to center. Use your inhale just to come up halfway. Let's bring the hands on up to the shins. Extend the legs fully. Extend the spine, maybe taking the gaze forward. As you exhale, bend the knees as much as you need to touch the floor again. And then on your next inhale, slowly rise up to standing, circling the arms out, reaching up towards the ceiling at the end of that inhale. And then exhale, bring the hands together into the center of your chest. Finding your mountain pose. So we'll do a few sun salutations to keep the body warm and get us ready again for that lovely back bend or pinnacle bridge pose. So let's go ahead and take a stretch, circling the arms out and up. As you exhale, soften the bend in your knees, hinge from your hips, and swan dive towards the floor. Use your inhale to come up halfway, hands to shins, lengthen your spine. Exhale, touch down. Inhale, step back into your plank pose. You can always do a knees down version of this, but make sure that your hands are back a little bit so that when you lower down, your elbows stay over your wrist creases as you come to the floor through a Chaturanga Dandasana. Point your toes. Now, we're going to inhale up into a Cobra. Try not to squeeze the powerful buttocks muscles, but lengthen your tailbone towards your heels, pressing down through the tops of the feet. Slide your shoulder blades down the back. Lift your heart, lift your head. As you exhale, come back down. Inhale, back to plank pose, and then exhale into your downward facing dog. At the end of your exhale, step your feet towards the front of the mat. Come up halfway on your inhale. Exhale to fold in half. Inhale, rise to standing. Exhale, bring it home. Inhale, circle the arms out and up. Exhale, swan dive. Inhale, half forward fold, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, full forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, plank pose. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, Cobra. Try not to clench the buttocks. Lengthen your tailbone instead. Slide the shoulder blades down the back. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, plank. Exhale, downward facing dog. Step forward and inhale halfway up. Exhale to fold. Inhale, rise and reach. Exhale, bring it home. Inhale. Exhale. Keep moving. Halfway up on your inhale. Folding on your exhale. Plank pose as you inhale. Lower down as you exhale. Inhale, Cobra. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, plank. Exhale, downward facing dog. Make your way to the front of the mat and inhale halfway up. Exhale, fold in half. Inhale, rise and reach. Exhale, bring it home. All right, now that we're back in our mountain pose at the front of the mat, we're just going to take a big step back with the left foot and bring the left knee down, coming into a low lunge. Now we want to make sure that this right knee stays happy, so pressing down into the hips. If your right knee comes out over your right foot, adjust either by bringing the left knee back or inching your right foot forward a little bit, so we keep this right knee happy. As we sink down into the hips, stretching that left hip flexor, taking some nice deep breaths in and out here. We're going to go ahead and circle the arms out and up. But you can always keep your hands on that right knee if balance is an issue or you don't want to move your shoulders this way. And now as we exhale, we're going to sweep the arms down and back, either interlacing the fingers or bending into that left knee and reaching back for that left foot. Now this might challenge our balance, so you can always keep your right hand on your right knee and just reach for that left foot. If you have a yoga block, you could always use that inside or outside the foot, or we could just stay with the hands interlaced at the low back. Now, if you have a hold of your foot or you have your hands interlaced, slide those shoulder blades down the back. Lift your heart. Broaden the collarbones. Breathe deeply. If you're in a bind, slowly release. Take those arms back up over the shoulders. And then as you exhale, bring your hands to the floor. Slowly lift that left knee off the floor. Step your left foot up just a little bit and then pivot your left heel down, setting up for warrior one, making sure that your feet have their own parallel line to be placed on. The left toes are sort of angled forward. The right knee is still bent. Both feet are firmly planted on the floor. And then once you're there, go ahead and come on up. Setting up for warrior one and getting your sea legs, right? And then once again, take those arms up into the air, bending deeply into that left knee. Now slide those shoulder blades down onto the back. Take some nice deep breaths in and out here. Steadying yourself by steadying your gaze. Trying to keep all sides of that left foot firmly planted. Go ahead and exhale, sweeping the arms back down and around behind you. As you interlace your fingers, lengthen those shoulder blades down the back. And lengthen your knuckles towards that left heel. Keep lifting the chest, broadening the collarbones. And then release, floating the arms back up over the shoulders, exhaling the hands back down onto the mat, and then go ahead and step the left foot up next to the right foot. Forward fold. Use your inhale to come up halfway, hands to shins, a nice long spine. Exhale, touch down. Inhale, rise to standing, reach and stretch. Exhale, bring it home. All right. Back in mountain pose, let's go ahead and stretch this right hip flexor. So step back and then slowly bring that right knee down to the mat. Make any adjustments you need to, either bringing the right knee back a little bit, bringing the left foot forward. So as you sink down into your hips, this left knee stays almost over this left heel and ankle. That'll just keep it happy in the long term. All right, so once we're here, we can either keep our hands on that left knee or bring the arms back up over the shoulders. Just finding Anjaneyasana, or low lunge, low crescent lunge. Feeling a stretch in the hips, the hip flexors. As you exhale, sweep your arms back down and around behind you. If you choose to interlace your fingers, try doing it the less common way. And then we can lengthen the knuckles down towards that right heel, or we can start to bend into that right knee and reach back for that right foot. So if you hold on to your right foot, keep sliding those shoulder blades down the back. Oops. It can be a bit of a balance issue, especially if we're talking while we're trying to do it. So steady the breath, steady your gaze. And keep in mind, you don't have to go for this bind of the foot. We can always just keep the hands interlaced. If you're holding onto your foot, slowly release the foot. If you've got your hands clasped, release the hands. Circle your arms back up into the air. And then as you exhale, bring your hands down. Using your hands on the floor, lift that right knee up off the floor, and then just step your right foot about 1 foot closer to the front of the mat. Pivot your right heel down, bending into that left knee. Slowly work your way into your warrior one. So as you come up, steady yourself, make sure the feet are planted. Again, you might feel a little more stable if you have your feet on separate parallel lines. Once you've got that foundation set, take the arms back up over the shoulders. Virabhadrasana, a warrior one. So even here, we're lengthening the tailbone down without squeezing the butt. Our hips can stay stable without engaging the biggest muscles there in the body, the gluteus maximus. And then slowly sweep your arms back down and around behind you. Let's all interlace the fingers again. Try the less common way. As you lengthen your knuckles down towards that right heel, lengthen your tailbone down, lift your chest up, slide the shoulder blades down the back. And then use your inhale to release. Sweep your arms back up into the air. Exhale, go ahead and touch down with your hands. This time we're going to plant the hands and step back into our plank pose. Use your exhale to float yourself down to the floor. Inhale into Cobra. Exhale, lower down. Inhale to plank. And then exhale to your downward facing dog. Now, if downward facing dog does not feel restful to you, return to child's pose. Reconnect with your breath. On your next inhale, let's meet up in tabletop, whether you're in down dog or child's pose. Come back to tabletop. And then from here, walk your hands towards your knees. We're going to come into a prep for our camel pose, Ustrasana. So I'm going to give us, you guys, several options for our camel pose today. We're not going to go into the deepest variation of it. This is really just kind of practice for being in bridge pose or another back bend. So ideally we want to have our hips right over the knees. Knees are about hip distance apart, so again lined up with those hip points. We're going to just go ahead and bring the hands to the low back. Bring the elbows back without trying to pinch the shoulder blades together. So what we want to do is start to slide the shoulder blades down the back. When you do that, you're not just pinching back, you're sliding them down. You're lifting the collarbones up, maybe lifting the chin up. Keep the hips moving forward. Now we don't want to over thrust the inner thighs forward here, but kind of feel the inner thighs peeling back as you push down into your knees, lengthening your tailbone downward. Nice deep breaths in and out. Please don't just let your head drop back, but hold your head with those very, very important neck muscles. And now slowly bring your gaze forward until your head's back up over your shoulders. Good. And then just sit back on your heels if you're comfortable with that. If not, you can come into a cross-legged seated position just to rest for a few breaths. Our lightning bolt pose, Vajrasana. Good. Now go ahead and bring your hands to the floor out in front of you. So we'll come back into a tabletop position. Swing your feet out from behind you and sit. So from here, we're gonna just make our way back onto our backs and work on our pinnacle pose, our bridge. So once you're on your back, place your feet on the floor so the knees are bent. Once again, we want to bring those shoulder blades onto the back, but snuggle them down towards the hips. So it's not the action of squeezing the shoulder blades underneath us, but rather sliding them down towards the hips and then leaving the head and shoulders where they're at. Now we always want to make sure that the neck has a nice curve to it. If your neck doesn't naturally curve up away from the floor, you can always put a small rolled towel underneath just your neck to maintain that nice roll. The head still remains on the floor, the shoulders are on the floor, arms are alongside the body here. Feet are hip distance apart, knees are even with the hip points. Now, I'm going to give you the option of holding on to the outer edges of the mat to keep those shoulder blades kind of drawing downward towards the hips, or just firmly planting your palms down into the mat. So you can do either, whichever works for you. And now on your next exhalation, lengthen your tailbone towards your heels and feel your back flatten out onto the floor. When you inhale, just relax the back. It's a lot like those cats and cow modifications we were doing. So our exhale, we're tucking the tail, lengthening the tail towards the heels. Might even feel like the tailbone's lifting towards the knees. And then we inhale to release. Go ahead and do 3 more of those. Exhaling to tuck or lengthen, inhaling to relax the tailbone. 2 more. One more. Good. Now we're going to do that one more time. We're going to lengthen the tailbone towards the heels and then slowly let your hips start to lift up off the floor. And then gradually peel the rest of the back off the floor. It's kind of like you're rolling the back off the floor. Keep those shoulders anchored. Keep the shoulder blades drawing towards the hips. As you get your hips into the air, now notice if you're trying to thrust the hips up by squeezing those powerful buttocks muscles or gluteus maximus. If that's the case, try to relax the butt muscles. Also, we don't want those inner thighs lifting up, so relax the inner thighs down. Draw the knees towards one another, almost like there's kind of a magnetic connection, but you're resisting letting them knock together, right? So just draw the knees in ever so slightly, inner thighs drop down, and now once again, lengthen your tailbone towards your knees, lift the hips a little bit more. Again, try not to make this action come entirely from the buttocks muscles. They're working already, but we don't want to over rely on them. And again, you have the option of holding on to the mat or just planting the arms firmly. We're just going to take one more nice deep breath here. Make sure the neck and the jaw are relaxed and there's no pressure on the back of the neck. Please just keep your gaze at the ceiling here. We don't want to create any injuries to the tiny blood vessels and nerves in the neck. So keep your gaze at the ceiling. If you're tempted to look at the screen, don't right now. You can always take a break from the pose and watch this again if you need to. Now we're going to use our exhale to roll the back of the body slowly back down into the mat, just going nice and slow until the hips land. And now please keep your feet on the floor and just move the knees side to side. And then we'll return to that setup for bridge pose. Feet on the floor, knees about hip distance apart, feet hip distance apart. Everything's nicely lined up. We feel that nice foundation. Hands are anchoring us. Again, you can either hold on to the outer edges of the mat or just plant the palms firmly. Snuggle the shoulder blades down the back. Don't try to pinch them together. We're still creating a lot of space for the collarbones here. And then once again, you're going to lengthen your tailbone towards the heels, lift the tailbone towards the knees, lift the hips very slowly, rolling the back off the floor. Once we're up into our bridge pose, again, don't over muscle it with the buttocks muscles. Just lengthen your tailbone, try to relax the buttocks muscles. Let the inner thighs roll downward. Keep the knees even with the hips. Make sure that the feet stay firmly planted on the floor. If you feel like you're heavier on the outer edges of your feet, root down a little bit more into the inner edges of the ball mounds of the big toes. Now, option 1, you're holding onto the mat or you have your hands planted. Option 2, the hands come together under the low back. Now, we're still not pinching the shoulder blades together. We're moving the shoulder blades towards the heels. And feel that nice lift in the front of the body, lifting the chest, lifting the chin a little bit, but don't press the back of the head into the mat. Just keep that neck nice and long. Please keep your gaze at the ceiling. Drop those inner thighs down a little bit. Lengthen your tailbone a little bit more. 2 more breaths here. Good. If your hands are clasped, slowly bring your hands and arms out from underneath you. Once again, we're going to roll the back down very slowly. There's no rush. Once your hips land, please keep your feet on the floor and just move the knees side to side a few times. Good. Now bring your knees back to center. Open your arms out into a T position. So we've got the arms spread out even with the shoulders. And now press down into your feet to just shift your hips a little to the left. And now lower both knees to the right to come into a spinal twist. Now, if keeping your knees stacked causes that left shoulder to lose contact with the floor, you can elevate your left knee. You could even put your left foot on the floor and separate the knees a lot. If you have a yoga block, you could even cradle that top knee with the block. So there's all sorts of variations here. At this point, if you want, you could turn your head to the left and get in a little extra stretch for the neck. This is a nice way to counter bridge pose and use all that lovely space from the back bends that we've done to wring out tension in the back of the body. Now, if you're looking to the left, bring your gaze back to the ceiling. Slowly roll onto your left hip, bringing your knees back to center. Then bring your hips back to the center of the mat. Now from here, keep your arms extended, but lift both feet up off the floor and bring your knees in towards your chest. Just coming into kind of a half version of a double knee hug. Good, and then go ahead and put your feet back on the floor. Press down to shift your hips over to the right, and then roll both knees down towards the mat. Coming into our spinal twist. And again, you may need to adjust on this side in order to keep that right shoulder on the floor. If you'd like, you can shift your gaze towards your right hand. And sometimes it's nice to just close the eyes here and go into your body, noticing how the body feels. Receiving the sensations the changes that are happening breath by breath in your body. And now go ahead and bring your gaze back towards the ceiling. Slowly roll your right hip back down onto the mat. Bring both knees up and in towards the chest. And then this time, if you'd like, go ahead and wrap your arms around your legs, coming into a double knee hug. And just feeling the back of the body, get a nice little massage against the floor. If you want to add to that massage, we can circle the knees around a few times in each direction. Try not to just go through the motions, but really feel this as a massage, right? Enjoy it, savor it. And now go ahead and put your feet back on the floor. Keep your feet together and splay your knees apart. Option 1, we can just let the arms rest alongside the body. Option 2, you could take the arms back out into that T position. And finally, we could bring the arms back up overhead. In this pose, you're going to notice that your hips and your shoulders are on the floor, but a lot of the back in between the hips and the shoulders are elevated, extended, arched. So try not to tuck your tail, just relax into this shape. Enjoy all the space that you've created in your body, the balance that you've created, and the energy that you've tapped into. Eventually bring your arms back down alongside the body if they're not there already. Bring your knees together and then take your time extending your legs out onto your mat one at a time. Take a moment to get settled in. Maybe windshield wiper the feet a little bit to release any gripping in the hips or the hip flexors here. Snuggle those shoulder blades back down towards the hips. Feel your heart nice and open. Feel the collarbones nice and broad. And now close your eyes and relax. Savoring the support of the floor beneath your entire body. Allowing the breath to grow soft and quiet. Relaxing the muscles of the hands and the feet. Softening the arms and the legs. Relaxing your hips and your shoulders. And create softness between the shoulders and the hips, the torso, back, the belly, the rib cage, the chest. Now relax your neck and your throat. Soften your jaw, maybe even letting the jaw come unhinged. Relax the muscles of the face, especially the muscles around the eyes. And stay here for another few moments, savoring the effects of your yoga practice on your body. to come out of your rest and relaxation. Start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. And maybe alternate bending your knees. Take a full body stretch. And bring both knees in towards the chest and gently rock side to side. And now go ahead and roll onto either your right or left side. Just take a few moments, sideline here, in the sideline fetal position, sideline child's pose. And feel free to start to blink your eyes just to adjust to the light in the room. And then when you're ready, use your arm strength. Start to press yourself up, working your way into a seated position that you find comfortable. And then go ahead and stretch your arms up into the air. Take a nice deep breath in, and as you close the pose and bring your hands together in front of your heart, close your eyes, bow down, and thank yourself for taking time to bring your body back into a state of balance using bridge pose. And may this practice go with you off the mat. May it give you more balance, more ease, and more peace in whatever you do. Thank you so much for sharing your yoga practice with me. Namaste. Thanks for joining me for this practice. Bridge pose is one of my favorite things. I hope that it becomes one of your favorite things too. Have a wonderful day.